Well, I'm delighted to be joined here by Ross Teague, who is the founder and CEO of Nebula, also IT Channel Oxygen's partner for the inaugural IT Channel Oxygen fireside chat. Welcome, Ross. So, Ross, it's really good to be here with you today and get a chance to put some questions to you, the founder of Nebula. And maybe that's a good place to start with how you founded the company. Some people may remember you from iTech, which was your first channel services venture. And then you came back into the market in lockdown, I think, 2020.
Correct. Yep.
Now, when you launched Nebula, was the idea to do kind of iTech Mark II, do the same thing again? Or did you have a notion of doing something very different with Nebula?
When I looked to founded Nebula, when I looked to start that business, I went on a bit of a personal voyage of discovery, thinking about where do my skills lie, where's my knowledge base, and perhaps equally importantly, where is my network? And I'm a big believer in one of your most valuable assets is your human network. And I went on a bit of a voyage of discovery, thought about that quite a lot, and got back to the point of actually, I pretty much only know how to do one thing, and that's build global channel services organizations. So naturally, by sort of osmosis, it kind of filtered me in that direction to do a kind of, I don't want to call it an iTech 2.0 because they're very different businesses, and we'll get into that, but a similar concept because, as I said, that's my kind of core strength, I believe, and my network of people and customers and partners, etc., very much fall within that sphere. So it was kind of protracted voyage of discovery because I had a lot of time on my hands. It was the first lockdown, nothing else to do. But the reality of it is it naturally found its own path quite quickly. And really that's kind of how Nebula was born, really.
Yeah, sure. And so it's been 4 years.
Yep.
Where is it on that growth trajectory? And what are your kind of ambitions for the company and maybe over the next couple of years?
I get asked the question a lot, actually. People say, look at us, and we've had an incredible last, 3 or 4 years from founding to where we are now. And people often say to me, did you think you'd be where you are now when you set the business up? And my honest answer is yes, this was the plan. So we're operating to plan. We're operating to what we expected to do. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not proud of it, and it doesn't mean that I'm not immensely proud of the achievements of my team and the things they've done. Of course I am. But you set out with a plan and aspirations, and the general goal is that you hit and meet those plans. Last financial year, which our financial year ended at the end of May, we actually set two budgets. We set our standard budget and we set a stretch budget, and we overachieved stretch as a budget, which was perhaps slightly above expectation. But we also amended the investment in the business once we realized we were shifting from one budget to another. So we invested a lot more in things like marketing and brand. We invested a lot more in systems and IT and a lot more in people, which is obviously a critical part of our business. So, we're growing incredibly well. Circa 45% revenue growth last year, doubled our EBITDA number last year, on top of doubling most of our investment areas across the business. So the performance was very, very strong. The next 24 months is a lot more of the same. We've got pretty aggressive growth plans in terms of revenue and EBITDA. We've got aggressive plans in terms of how we're going to develop our business. But equally, we've got a couple of really interesting areas of the business we're looking to develop and grow. So we're putting a lot of investment into building out a suite of managed service propositions that are going to be quite disruptive and quite unique in terms of the market and how we could take that to market with our channel partners and enable them to add more value to their customers. So watch this space. That's coming pretty soon. And so we're developing those right now. So that we believe is going to help grow and develop our annuity business, but also add a lot of value to our channel. But equally important is all of our social commitments, particularly around our ESG roadmap. And, we've got our Neb Zero page on our website, which lays out our ESG aspirations and goals for quite a few years in the future, actually. But if you look at that, the next 24 months, we've got some big commitments around, ISO 14001, our EcoVadis certification, and we're going to invest a lot more in terms of some community type projects and opportunities. We have our charity partner Share, who we do a lot of work with. So it's not just about growing the business and growing the numbers. It's about growing the numbers and building the business, innovating, in terms of the service propositions that we have, but also doing the things that are most dear to us as the senior leadership team of Nebula, and that's our ESG and our social strategy. So a lot of balls in the air, but very well selected balls, and ones that we believe are the ones that will keep us going on the same growth trajectory of what we've enjoyed for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, definitely. And you've touched on it there, but just to pin down what Nebula is, and obviously there's the range of channel services companies out there. So maybe what does Nebula do a bit differently? How would you describe that business model? Obviously the scope 3 play that you have that Rich has talked to me about is one thing, but that and what else is maybe makes you a bit different.
Yeah, again, so when I sort of set Nebula up and thought about, we're entering a crowded room. How do you stand out in a crowded room? How do you differentiate yourselves? Because lots of the things that we do, i.e. the services we deliver, are quite similar to what other organizations do. So there's not a real uniqueness there. I think the uniqueness comes in our attitude and our methodology and how we go about things. So one of the things I always say is Nebula is very much an outcome-based service provider. So we look at what success looks like for our customers and their customers and what they're trying to achieve, and we work back from there and deliver the services that drive that successful outcome. I think some other people, organizations in our sphere, they perhaps more technology-led or they're more service-centric. We're very much outcome-led. And the very early days of Nebula, our strapline was customer success obsessed. And actually, that still very much resonates and runs through the veins of Nebula, is that kind of, the answer is yes, Mr. Customer, now what's the question, can-do mentality. And we certainly haven't lost that. So one of the things I would say where I think is perhaps part of the Nebula secret sauce is very much that attitude. It's very much that, what does success look like, and let's work backwards from there. Very much a can-do attitude, very much a, we're in this with our customers, because if we don't make our customers successful, our channel partners successful, we're not successful. So we have to work in addition to them and their organization to really drive the right outcomes and the right experience for our customers. So I would say, sort of summarizing that, it's the quality of the work we provide. It's the attitude in which we approach it, as I said, and the outcome-based attitude. And I think it's that sort of pride and success that runs through the backbone of Nebula, where our team are really, to our team, doing a good job is really important. And that's the ethos and the culture we've created. So the answer is seldom no if you speak to somebody at Nebula, unless the answer is just physically no, it's impossible. But if there's a way to do it, we will find a way, and we'll work with our customer to drive the outcomes. And I think hiring people for us is really, really important, and getting people with the right attitude to fit that culture. That's perhaps one of our biggest challenges is getting the right people to do that. Because that's kind of the Nebula secret sauce, if you will, that is that attitude and is that desire to drive the right outcomes.
Yeah, great. And just to change things up a bit now, if you could change anything about Nebula at the stroke of a magic wand, what would you change?
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess there's a sort of tactical answer to this question and a more strategic one. Tactical would be, I wish my salespeople did a better job of filling out the CRM, but I think that's that's perhaps a bit tongue in cheek. The reality of it is, I think we're the building blocks, and using an analogy Richard uses a lot, like the layers of the onion. We're layering the onion well with a lot of substance at the core in terms of the quality of our people, the quality of our service, and our attitude and our ethos. I guess being a entrepreneur and a salesperson that I am at heart, I would probably say I would take the numbers of 24 months' time and I'd have them today. That would be probably what I would change at the stroke of a wand, is that let's just accelerate the whole thing and get 24 months further down the line now. But in terms of what we do and how we go about things, I wouldn't change very much, to be honest. That just perhaps more scale and bigger, and but I think that what we're doing and how we're building, and how we're growing, is very sustainable. It's very controlled, where we can maintain quality as well as drive the growth, because that's really important. You can grow faster, but then your quality tails off. So if I had a wand right now, Doug, it would be the numbers of what I think they're going to be in 24 months now. That would be that would be what I would probably go with.
No, definitely. And one thing that interests me about serial entrepreneurs in the channel is why they come back. What motivates them to come back? They could, I don't want to say retire, but they don't need to do it again. They don't need to do it. They don't need to take the risk. So as an entrepreneur, as a founder, what motivates you?
there's an old saying: if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And I'm not sure that's entirely true, but I think broadly it is. I love the business. I love the people I get to work with every day, and I love building people-centric businesses and building things. That's I complain about it sometimes, Doug, but the reality is I absolutely love it, and that's what motivates me to get up and create something out of nothing, out of an idea, and see the people that I have in my organisation, and perhaps some of the younger people, how they've come through and the careers they're now building themselves. Some of the senior people that have come into the business, and seasoned professionals, and very much the top of their tree. And actually, Nebula's enabled them to broaden their skill set and do and achieve things. That's really exciting for me to see that. And I think building something which is got quality at its core, and people look at it and look at our organisation, thinking that's a quality organisation. Everything we do is quality, the quality of the brand, and that sort of stuff. And think that come from a concept on a piece of A4 paper sat at my kitchen table, and all of the people that are involved with it directly and indirectly, and how it's benefit their careers and they've grown. I take a lot of personal pride in that, and actually for me that's a mark of success more than money. I think that's the key thing. So getting up every day, even when we have bad ones, because everybody does, is a pretty easy job for me, because I look around, I look at the people that I work with, look at my team, look at how they're growing and developing, and how much better they are than perhaps they were 6 months ago, 9 months ago. They're really bought into what we do. I don't know how I can replicate that feeling doing anything else. So it kind of leaves me with no choice. You have to keep doing it. But genuinely, I love what I do. I love coming to work every day. I love the people that I work with. So it's pretty easy. That they motivate me really. As well as what we're building.
It's actually a bit of a dream team that you've assembled there at Nebula. You've got people like Richard Eglon, and you've got Pete Murphy and other people in the team as well. So that's a really positive thing, but moving from a good thing to more of a negative thing, which is the toughness of the market, which we can still see in the results of channel partners in the middle of the year. It doesn't seem to be getting any better. What's your view? And Nebula's obviously going through a massive growth ramp, but as you look at your partners, are things getting any easier?
Generally, the economy is quite tough. I think there's a lot of macroeconomic problems that are perhaps creating that and affecting market confidence, perhaps affecting areas of investment stuff. So I think it's tough out there, but perhaps putting a positive on a negative, I'm always a believer there's always business out there. There's always business, and perhaps you've got to work a little harder for it. You've got to be a bit more focused. You've got to be a bit more determined to achieve it. And I think we as Nebula have been very, very focused on where our strengths are and our addressable market, and tend to not deviate too far away from that. And I think that's part of the reason why we've been successful. The global economic situation is going to be challenging for a little while. Obviously, we've got the US election coming up in November. Who knows what's going to happen with that? And there's the uncertainty around that. There's still a number of conflicts in different parts of the world that have an impact in terms of market confidence. So I think for the short-term foreseeable future, I think the market is still going to be quite tough because of those things. But I think it's a great opportunity. And I think the strong organisations that have the ability to focus on what makes them successful, what makes them good, really have that focus, perhaps not do some of the peripheral things within their business that perhaps take away valuable money and resource from the core things, and have a good suite of services, good suite of products, good suite of proposition. I think they'll do okay, because, as I said, there's always business out there. There always is, and there's new economies coming out. Obviously, the explosion of AI type technologies, and I think lots of organisations are struggling with how to figure out how to monetize AI and what that means to their business. And I think, from a business process automation perspective, I think there's an opportunity to become a lot more efficient using things like AI technology. So I think for the foreseeable future, because of the macroeconomic and global uncertainty, I think the economy is going to be tough. But there are opportunities out there, and I think it's in these scenarios, having a real crystal clear strategy and a crystal clear focus and staying on point with it. I think the companies that do that, in my humble opinion, will do better than those that try and diversify and chase rainbows and butterflies. Because, as I said, I don't think that's the strategy in perhaps a slightly more depressed market as it is. So yeah, and as I said, and I think the reason we've been successful is that laser focus. We're really focused on what we do, and we try and be the best at what we do, and every day we work really hard to achieve that. And our numbers would indicate that's paying dividends. But I wish I could sit here and say, I think the rest of 2024, 2025, it's going to be, double-digit economic growth. Sadly, I don't see that. I think it is going to be tough because of all those problems. But there's still a lot of business out there, and there's still a lot of opportunity.
No, for sure. And apologies for bringing the mood down with that question. So,
no problem.
More positive question. What would you say has been your high point of the year so far?
One of the things that's really important in Nebula is the culture of the company and the culture of the people. And obviously, we have a dispersed workforce in the US, in India, parts of Southeast Asia, and obviously the UK. And one of the things that we do every year is we bring the team together where we have an annual company kickoff. We did it in Doha in Qatar in June this year. And I love that 2 or 3 day period where we get the whole team together, or most of the team certainly, and I just sit back and watch the engagement between peers and colleagues and stuff. And these are people that day to day don't meet one another. They're thousands of miles apart, but every day work very, very closely to deliver the services and the outcomes that our customers want. So watching that engagement, and we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of down and social time when we do these kickoffs, and just seeing the engagement of my team, seeing how excited people get to get together and share a drink, share a meal, share a laugh together. That for me is always one of the highlights, and this year was probably the best kickoff we've ever managed to do. The location was immense, the structure and everything was fabulous. But seeing the response from the team and seeing how much they enjoyed it, seeing how much they got out of it, seeing how engaged they are in the things that we're trying to do as an organisation, that will take some topping, I think. And for me, as I said, worth every penny we invest in it. And I see it as an investment. I don't see it as a cost, because I'm investing in the people, and I'm investing in the culture, and I'm investing in the collaboration. And for a fly on the wall to watch that, and I quite often play that fly on the wall and in the role, it's amazing to watch. And the feedback that I always get from the team and my colleagues and stuff afterwards, how much they enjoy the event, it's an amazing experience. So for me, so far that would be right up there.
So Ross, which entrepreneur or company do you respect the most?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's obviously lots of celebrities, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, et cetera, that you look at and you have to admire them because of what they've built and what they've done. But I think for me, they're quite a lot closer to home in terms of the people I look at and I look at as mentors and peers and people that I've been fortunate enough to work with closely, and they've really had a massive impact on me as an individual, in terms of where I am sitting here talking to you today. So interestingly, the first one would be my father, John. And obviously he's my dad, and he's the person that's taught me more about life and business than anybody else, on planet Earth. So my dad was my partner in the iTech business, and what he taught me, putting aside he's my dad, but what he taught me as my business partner in those days, and I was a young, aggressive, bulletproof salesman that thought he could, do everything. My dad actually taught me how to structure and build and shape a business. He taught me the importance around back office. He taught me the importance of financial prudence in a business. And perhaps most importantly, my dad was quite old school, and he taught me cash accounting, in terms of if we don't have the money in the bank, son, we ain't spending it type mentality. And, me being young and wanting to invest and conquer the world quickly, he was the sounding board that brought me back down to earth. And we can't do this. We're going to run out of money. And, without money, we don't have a business. So for me, that's been a really, it's been a massive lesson for my career. And actually, as most of my team will say in Nebula, I'm quite neurotic about the cash. That's important, because if you don't have cash, you don't have a business. You can have a great balance sheet, you can have a great P&L, but if you don't have cash, you can't invest. You can't, you don't have that business stability. And I would say my dad instilled that to me really, really, really aggressively, actually, from the very early days of my career working with him. So my dad would be number one. Number two would be the former CEO of Exclusive Networks Group, Olivier Brittmeyer. Olivier, an exclusive, bought iTech, and I stayed with exclusive for 3.5 years after that acquisition, and got to be part of the executive management team of the Exclusive Networks Group, which was a magnificent experience for me. I was out of my comfort zone for a lot of it. If the reality of it, running a relatively small services business, now being part of a circa 1.2 billion euro global cybersecurity distributor, as Exclusive was then, quite a bit bigger now, I believe. But the bit that was so special about Olivier and what I took from him, and quite a lot of this actually, I'm trying to develop and build into Nebula, into its Exclusive had something called l'esprit exclusive, which was really a culture, and that come from Olivier and filtered all the way down the business. And l'esprit exclusive was, what I took from that was a culture of winning, being successful, being dominant, but doing all of that well. Not winning at all costs, not bad mouthing your competition, not doing it, winning with class, if you will. And that's what l'esprit exclusive meant to me and many other people. And I think he managed to build that culture across circa 50, 60 countries, every different nationality, creed of people that you can imagine. And he managed to build that culture that navigated all of that and brought it all together, where everybody had the same vision, the same goal, the same belief, and conducted themselves broadly in the same way. And driving that culture through an organization that's much bigger than Nebula is today, and how he did that in such a humble and such a unassuming way was eye-watering to see, and just incredible. And as I said, what I'm trying to do is learn from that and take some of that, and that's why the culture element, things like the kickoff that we do at Nebula, I took all of that from Olivier, and how he did and how he conducted himself, and it certainly worked fabulously at Exclusive, and that business continues to go from strength to strength. And it's certainly working here at Nebula in perhaps a smaller way right now. But give us time, we're certainly on a good trajectory. And how we did that, as I said, that's been a really a big impact on me as an individual. And watching how he did things and trying to replicate that in my own style, because we're different people. You've got to do it in your own way, in your own style. But they would be two individuals that, as I said, have had a real massive direct impact on me, and I think is resonating in how we do things at Nebula.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from a journalist perspective, he was very approachable and, as you say, very, very humble.
Yep.
The last I heard of him, he was going off to, was it racing cars, or was it vintage cars or something?
Yeah, he had a pretty incredible collection of vintage cars, actually, yeah. and that was kind of his passion. And yeah, interestingly, day to day, he always rode around on a Honda Goldwing motorcycle. He didn't actually drive a car day to day, but yeah, he had a magnificent collection of typically vintage racing cars, and that was kind of a passion of his.
Yeah, well, good choice. Yeah. So what keeps you awake at night as an entrepreneur?
99% of the time, I think I sleep pretty well, to be honest. I think all small business entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs to a degree, and certainly the ones that I've met and worked with and spend time with. There's an element of being an entrepreneur that makes you a little bit of a control freak. And you can get carried away with that, but I think entrepreneurs' cause, there's a bit of that, being a bit of a control freak. And when I find that some of the plates that we are spinning are perhaps starting to get a bit wobbly and a little bit out of control, until we get it back under control, I struggle a little bit with that. And it's not always something that I have to do directly. In fact, in most scenarios, it isn't. But it might be a conversation I have to have with a member of the senior leadership team or a member of the middle management team, where perhaps they haven't noticed the plate is starting to spin off its axis a little bit. So I like everything in Nebula to be as controlled, as orderly, and going in the same direction as much as possible. That's really important to me. And when it starts to deviate off track, which happens in business for a myriad of different reasons, and sometimes beyond your control it happens. But I like us to be in control. And I think when we're perhaps not as in control as I'd like, I never think we completely lose control. I certainly hope we don't. But when perhaps that would be probably the biggest thing that affects my sleep. But as I say, luckily 99% of the time, Doug, I sleep like a baby. So
yeah, and just to pick up on your plate analogy, has a plate ever spun completely out of control for you? I.e., what's been your biggest business mistake in your career?
Yes, I think yes, it certainly has. I think I touched on this earlier. One of the things I think is when you're an entrepreneur and an opportunistic type person that I naturally am, you can have a bit of a tendency to butterfly to the next shiny thing and look at it and go, oh yeah, we can do this, we can diversify, and perhaps the early stages of iTech and that career, I was perhaps that moth going to the shiny light, and we tried to do a myriad of different things. Pretty much unilaterally didn't work. The core business was solid, it was great, but all the peripheral things we tried to do that were which weren't directly complementary to core business. We spent time, money, resources that took away from the core business, and actually it had a detrimental effect on the core business because we were repointing those resources in different areas. And we very much don't do that at Nebula. We're very focused. We're very much, this is our lane. We stay in that, and we're not going to deviate. As I said, we will adapt and we will evolve and we will increase that. But fundamentally, this is what we do, and this is where we're going to stay, and we're going to back that horse to be successful. So the biggest mistake I would say in terms of that I made earlier in my career, and don't think I've repeated that in recent times, would be that trying to do too many things, thinking we can do everything great, and we can be in these markets, we can add these services, we can now sell these things, which detracts too much from core business. Because one, you're typically not very successful in where you're deviating, but perhaps more importantly, it takes valuable resources away from the core business, which is the strength of your organization. And in the past, I was very guilty of that. And got all the battle scars and bullet wounds from trying to do that. But as I said, good lessons learned and great lessons learned, and that's why, as I said, we have perhaps a lot more of a laser focus now in terms of what we do.
Yeah, definitely. And I would like to end on a question about your longer term vision for Nebula. So, where would you like it to be in maybe 3 to 5 years' time?
Yeah, and we have we have a kind of 3-year plan from now in terms of where we want to get to. And as I said, obviously these plans are typically always around revenue and EBITDA growth, and we have that. We have those kind of tablets of stone that are set in. But the reality of it is, I want Nebula in 3 years' time from now, say, or 3 to 5 years' time, to still be looked at the way it is in terms of what we stand for as an organization and what our people stand for, and as I said, and doing things the right way, winning well, as an analogy I used earlier. I would like to see lots more people in Nebula. I would like to see more international expansion development, which is on our roadmap for the next 24 months. So more people, different parts of the world, servicing more customers, but very much. I just see us being bigger and doing more than we are today. I don't think we need to fundamentally change anything other than that, as I said, and just get bigger, stronger, faster, and do more of it. And that's really what the business plan is set up to do. And the areas of investment that we are looking at and developing in is really just to say stay on the path we're on and just do more of it, and do it over a bigger geographical spread. That's really the plan.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it was really good to find out more about your vision and your plans for Nebula. And I wish you all the luck in the world for the future and hope it goes well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Doug. Great talking to you.